Welcome, everybody. Oh, God.
Oh, man. It's a good start.
Welcome, everybody, to Let's Make It Weird. My name is Matt.
My name is Jake.
Excellent. Jacob, how are you today?
Nailing the timing. I'm good. I'm currently digesting 2 pounds of pasta and cheese.
That's excellent. We are actually currently we don't have a mixed drink tonight. Tonight we just have a beer. We're drinking right now Pipeworks. It's a Chicago brewery. It's called Lizard King. It's their Mosaic hopped pale ale. It is quite delicious. A little dry, a little sweet. I like it.
Yeah.
And then
refreshing.
we're gonna tuck into some Oktoberfest from Old Style. If anybody knows what Old Style is, if you're outside of Illinois, you might not have an easy time getting a hold of Old Style. But it's delicious. Oktoberfest is actually quite good compared to the swill they normally make.
Yeah. I almost disagreed, but yeah, it's not good.
Today we have a really interesting episode for you. We're stepping away from the supernatural for a little bit, and we're getting into real-world horror stories. Horror stories from history. That's the name of the episode. History is a horror story. And Jake's going to be pretty much heading up this one. I have a little bit to interject at the end, but he's got some juicy stories lined up for you that I am very excited to get a little bit more info on. So, Jacob, it's all you.
Oh, good start. Okay, I'm trying to think of like a good way to kind of introduce you to what this means. So when we say history is a horror story, you tend to think, or I tend to think, of certain times in history as like genres.
Sure.
When you think of like the ancient and Middle Ages, you think, well, I think sex and violence. You know,
Sure.
Game
Yeah.
of Thrones, Spartacus.
Yeah.
When I think more recently, World War I and World War II, I think violence again.
Yeah.
But kind of the stoic courage of man.
Sure.
And as you get more recent, you get sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and rap, and now I'm sounding like an old person. But what you don't know is that the first noted serial killer was in the Roman era. And The Shining actually happened back after the Civil War. Amongst other things, the trope of someone hiding in your attic isn't
Unfounded?
isn't as new as you think.
It's a terror that I live with every day. Every night I wonder if someone has crept into the house in the middle of the day to prey upon me. And I am terrified.
Yeah. So, should we kind of give a layout, or
Sure.
should we just jump right into it? Okay, so first we'll be talking about Major Henry Rathbone, then we'll segue into Paul Ogerzo, and then we are off to the Renaissance to deal with some zombies, then 1900s Germany for the Hinkik murders, and then a little bit of good old body horror in ancient Rome. Finally, back to the 1900s with Bella Kiss, and then we'll deal with 2 of history's first serial killers.
Excellent. I've got a serial killer that I want to discuss a little bit as well.
Interject whenever with yours, so it's not just me
Sure. All right.
gasping and panting, talking for 40 minutes straight. Okay, so we will start with Union Army Major Henry Rathbone.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the guy, you see him in paintings of John Wilkes Booth shooting, I almost said George Washington, Jesus, shooting Abraham Lincoln. He's
Some
the guy...
fun fan fiction.
Oh yeah, kind of holding on his arm going, no. Well, he actually did a lot more than that. He tried to stop Booth, and he ended up getting stabbed for his trouble. Seriously injured, and though he physically survived, his mind never recovered. He blamed himself for not being able to stop Booth, and he personally felt responsible for Abraham Lincoln's death.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where on December 23rd, 1883, he decided to kill his family, a la The Shining. So he killed his 3 kids, and when his wife tried to stop him, he shot and stabbed her, and then stabbed himself.
Did he die from the stabbing?
Nope, it gets way worse. The police found him covered in blood, completely out of his mind, gibbering that there were people hiding behind the pictures in his walls.
Oh, man.
And he later died in an insane asylum where he believed that people were pumping poison gas into his room.
Yeah.
So, Shining all the way through, except, Jack Nicholson doesn't freeze in.
He doesn't freeze out in a hedge maze.
Yeah. So
God, that is nuts. I mean,
that is The Shining.
It honestly, it is, and I can understand, especially like survivor's guilt, and the idea that you may have been able to stop an event from happening, but that level of taking on that sort of personal grief is, I just don't understand it. I mean,
I'm sure the physical trauma had to weigh on him too.
I'm sure that too, like the combination of being stabbed and the event of Lincoln being shot right in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
Like watching this dude's, like a bullet. I don't think the bullet came out the front of his head, but like you just see your commander-in-chief and friend just slump over with blood all over the back of his head.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to do much to improve your psyche.
No. And what I think is interesting is that he shot and stabbed his wife, and then he stabbed himself. It's almost like he's replaying these events.
It's so strange. Do you know where he stabbed himself?
No. I would assume stomach, the same place he was stabbed before, but that's, hearsay.
Yeah. I can imagine, like... Yeah, because stabbing is such like a... You don't hear about people, like, cutting their own throats.
No.
Cutting wrists is one thing, because that's actually, like, a much lesser pain. But, like, stabbing yourself is... Oh, God.
That's one of the most painful, least deadly ways to be injured.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so...
Any other interesting tidbits about this guy?
No, that's about it. I think, the end of his life is almost a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it doesn't end on a high note.
Tragedy.
No, but I mean, like, it doesn't end on an interesting note. It's like he goes through all this, and the last thing he complains of are, quote, secret machines in the walls blowing gas into his room and giving him headaches.
I don't know. It's pretty cool.
That's cool, but that would have been cool at the start of the story. Not,
yeah, if that's what caused
not after you
him.
shot and stabbed your wife and kids and stabbed yourself, that
That's
machines
true.
are giving you headaches. So, I mean, I don't know. History doesn't play out like a movie, I guess, all the time.
No, that's true. It's actually really interesting, especially from back then. There was machines, mechanics, and stuff like that, but...
That's a good point. I mean, short of a bellow, it's not like mechanical fans blowing into his room.
I mean, the first vacuum cleaners, I think, were shortly after, maybe a couple decades after Lincoln died. But they were the size of trucks, like a moving truck. These things had these giant machines on the back of them, and they'd wheel in a hose and like vacuum out your home. So just imagine like the size of the machine that would need to be behind the wall.
I didn't think of that. Yeah, he didn't think that theory through.
But that's still cool.
So yeah, Union General Major whatever Henry Rathbone.
Excellent. Well, good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
Good for him. So what's our next fun story we got?
Our next motherfucker is Paul Ogerzo. He was a German serial killer known as the S-Bahn murderer during Nazi-era Berlin.
Okay.
I kind of think of this guy as the predecessor to Michael Myers in that creepy, wears a work uniform, and is incredibly strong.
Okay.
His story isn't super interesting. He started out doing minor crimes and attempted to murder someone's victims, but his first few got away before he really found his MO. He got a job on the S-Bahn line, which is a German train.
Okay.
And at night, while wearing his work uniform, he lurked aboard the empty carriages and waited for people to go, as the passenger cars weren't illuminated because, you could see a train from bomber's height, so...
There you go.
So, yeah, you couldn't see anything. So what he would do is he would take this heavy, heavy flashlight, and when he found a victim, just quickly shine it in their face and stun them, and then either strangle or strike the victim in the head. And 6 of his 8 victims were found with crushed skulls, so
Damn.
that kind of tests to how strong he is.
That is terrifying.
So if only he had a William Shatner mask.
One of the things about serial killers is they do a lot of smaller petty crimes when they're young.
Yeah.
Usually there's a lot of theft that they get caught for, but then there's the minor things. Setting things on fire, wetting the bed, and I believe it's animal torture. It's the trifecta.
Yeah, he's got that.
That usually people look for in serial killers, and like look in their past and be like, okay, well, these are the 3 things that usually signify a deep psychological problem that these people can't deal with and express in their outside lives. They keep internalizing all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fact that this guy had a bunch of petty crimes in his past and then escalated past just like attacking victims, doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. The one thing that's kind of not disappointing, but he had a job. He knew people. He wasn't, Michael Myers, who...
True.
Whenever he's off camera, he's invisible. And I'm trying to think how to phrase this, but in the 40s, a serial killer was not a thing. I mean, there are serialized stories of Jack the Ripper, but even that might be a recent phenomena.
And they really didn't know.
A real thing.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Never mind.
They didn't know what to do about like Jack the Ripper because the idea of killing a prostitute was not unheard of back then. But usually it meant like somebody was visiting the prostitute and either got angry at them or the prostitute attacked them or they refused to pay the prostitute. So then they killed the prostitute. With stuff like Ogrezo. That's his name, Ogrezo?
That's how I'm going to pronounce it.
Okay. The idea of attacking somebody that you don't know was a foreign concept because the idea for police for the longest time was that if somebody killed somebody, then the murderer was somebody that they knew.
It was almost kind of a crime of passion.
Yeah.
Rather than cold and calculated.
Because that's all they could think of because that's all they ever saw. But they rarely saw the idea of somebody attacking somebody so brutally and they didn't know them. So finding these people was usually really tough.
Yeah, exactly. And something that I thought was interesting was that just going back to, they didn't have a serial killer culture, was that he often made really sexist comments to coworkers and openly talked about his fascination with killing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which, back in the day is just, all right, weirdo. Or in 40s Nazi Germany, hey, want to join the army?
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, that's the story of Paul Ogrezo.
Cool.
Yeah.
We should talk to our Paul about his open interest in killing people.
Yeah,
He's got to keep that to a minimum, otherwise HR is going to get into it.
I don't have a joke for that, but yeah, cut it out, Paul. Only other thing I can think of is that this was Nazi Germany and this guy was an Aryan. 100% German. And so you can imagine how, and this is another name, I'm going to butcher it, the criminal police, criminal police.
Yeah.
How they handled this investigation. They thought the guy was a weirdo, but there's no way a fully racial German could have done this.
Oh, absolutely. Not somebody of the master race.
Exactly. So, fuck you, Paul, you're a real dick.
All right, what's next? I'm super excited.
Okay, I'm going to do one more, and then we can kind of break off into yours.
Sure.
This one's probably my favorite, because zombies. Just because zombies.
I love it.
Okay, so this one, we're going from World War II Germany to Italy in the Renaissance. And when you think of that, you tend to think of sex and arts. Mm-hmm. Italian folks in posh clothes admiring Da Vinci, Michelangelo, a fourth one.
What is
But-
it? What's the other Ninja Turtles? Donatello,
Raphael,
and then there's Leonardo.
and Michelangelo.
Yeah.
And Da Vinci? No.
Well, Leonardo da Vinci. Never mind. Anyway, go
Oh,
on.
jeez. Shows how cultured I am. Leonardo and Da Vinci. We can edit that out in post.
Sure.
But what's not often talked about, because why would they, was that along with all this free sex came free syphilis.
Yay!
Yeah. So I didn't know this about syphilis, because I don't know anything about syphilis, because why would I know about syphilis? I mean, I know it's an STD.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that what we have now is like the neutered syphilis.
Yeah. The tame syphilis.
Yeah, antibiotics and other what have you have really taken its fangs out. But one of the worst things about syphilis is that without killing you, it rots you.
Yes.
So there would be mind and body. So there would be people walking, shambling the streets, missing fingers, missing toes, missing flesh off of their head so you can see their skull, missing their nose. I think I said nose. Missing body parts and barely being of this mind, being closer to a zombie than a person. So that's horrifying.
There was a movie that Johnny Depp played, or acted in. I think it was called The Libertine. And in it, he plays a poet and a modern man. I don't really know exactly who he played, although he was very influential to, I think, politics and art. But towards the end of the movie, he contracted syphilis.
What era was this again?
Oh, God. Victorian age, I believe.
So before we knew anything about the disease. About diseases in general.
And this was England, too. So, I mean, they knew what syphilis was. They just didn't know how to cure it.
Sure.
And towards the end, his character was he looked horrible. He looked like exactly what I would expect leprosy to look like horrible flesh, and he had to have like this almost like a prosthetic nose that he strapped onto his face like a eye patch.
Like a clown's nose?
Seriously, yeah. Like to hide the fact that he had like just an open wound on his face.
Oh.
His lips were all dried up, and you could see his gums, and it was really bad.
That is really bad.
Yeah. And and at the end it killed him. But syphilis can do some crazy stuff to your mind. I think they said that who was it? Hitler had syphilis from World War I. Yeah,
it rotted his brain or something.
Yeah, and that's why
it's a theory.
It's a theory, and that's why towards the end his policies became crazier and crazier and a little bit more extreme, and that's what led to ultimately part of what led to the downfall of Nazi Germany. He just couldn't keep it together.
Nuts.
Yeah, but any more about our Renaissance zombies?
Oh, I just like thinking that next time I go to a Ren Fair dressed as The Walking Dead, I've got this to back it up.
All right, well, from Renaissance zombies, we're going to go to World War II, German-occupied France.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about a gentleman called Marcel Petois. His other name, known in the newspapers, was Dr. Satan.
Oh my god, like House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yes.
Dr. Satan.
This guy did everything.
He got around.
Everything that you would expect a serial killer to do, like nowadays, these are clear indicators that this person's got problems. Back at this point, they just thought he was eccentric and charming. Everyone kept saying he was handsome. Look up a picture of this guy, Marcel Petois. He looks like a maniac. He's got one eye hanging down like an inch lower than the other one.
Thank you for assuming I can spell Marcel Petois. Well, I found Marcel the Shell.
Adorable, but not this guy. Marcel, Petiot. Find a picture of him?
Yeah. That's what attractive looks like?
Back in the day it was.
He looks like, man, nothing's coming to me today.
Yeah.
The other dude from Talladega Nights, not Will Ferrell, but John C. Reilly. He looks like John C. Reilly.
Honestly, yes.
That's...
Oh my God, he does.
And you know how he's known for his sex appeal.
Oh boy. Anyway, born in 1897 in France, this guy at an early age was diagnosed with mental illness. They just didn't know what to do with it at that point, other than just keep him at home or put him in a special school.
So is that what they did?
No, they actually put him in a public school. He was known for peeing his pants in school. I think he propositioned a male classmate as a child for sex.
That's young.
Yes. Did knife tricks. Shot off a gun in class. Was known wildly in his village for theft and for stealing. And if anything went missing, even like minimal value, even if it was just like an empty barrel that someone was probably going to throw away, but they just went missing from behind their shop, they knew to look for him. He had it.
So kleptomania.
Yes.
Like the compulsive.
Yes, he was and later on in his life, kleptomania plays an enormous part of just his crazy. He volunteered for World War One. There was a bomb went off next to him. He got gassed and was put into an army hospital. So he was probably going to be discharged. Except his kleptomania got the best of him, and when he was there, he was arrested for stealing blankets, morphine, and other medical supplies, along with letters and wallets and other personal stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just everything.
Everything.
Letters?
Yes! Letters from other people's family. It makes no sense. He just wanted to steal.
Okay.
So he was arrested and was, again, he went to a mental asylum, was diagnosed with a lot of different mental illness, but was returned right back to the front lines because they needed him. So what does he do to get out of the front lines?
Oh, wait, so hold on. So did he go back to the front lines because he stole, or just because...
They sent him back.
Yeah, but why? Because he stole, or because they just thought, oh man, we need everybody we can get?
We need everybody we can get right now.
That's grim.
Yeah. So how does he get out of it this time? He grenades his foot.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how you grenade your foot. I don't know if you throw a grenade at your foot or just like stick your foot close to a grenade that's about to go off. But that's the story, is that he damaged his foot with a grenade. And that got him out of the front lines and back into an army hospital.
Damaged, like blown off, or like just shrapnel?
A lot of shrapnel. A lot of minor damage, but not enough to blow off a foot.
Because you can't get close to a grenade without affecting the rest of your body.
Yes. I have no idea what grenades were like in World War I, but I'm sure they were not simple.
They were still grenades, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You didn't think to just shoot himself in the foot?
No, that's too simple.
That's not the patois way.
No. So,
right.
When he gets out of World War I, he goes into an accelerated medical program for Army vets and graduates from medical school in 8 months. That is ridiculous. Yes, I love the look on your face. Listeners, I wish you could see the look on Jake's face.
They didn't think, oh, the guy who grenaded his foot, who has every single red flag of being a serial killer. Well, because serial killers didn't exist back then.
But and the other thing
psyche,
too that needs to be kept in mind is this guy was so charming. He could talk himself out of any situation. And he did for so long. So many of his crimes were just overlooked because he could talk his way out of it. Or it doesn't matter how red-handed he was, he just was that good at talking and talking his way out of the problems that he's created for himself.
Wow.
I know. It is insane. And this is also back in the day when being a doctor was more like being a mechanic.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a whole lot of, medical school you'd really need to go through.
You used to go to your barber for surgery.
Seriously. Oh, yeah. This is pretty much what it was.
Okay. So when you step back and don't look at it from the mindset of, modern era, or when doctors are so respected, I guess that makes sense. Still, I feel like it foregoes common sense to be like, okay, we're gonna let this clearly insane dude, insane in a way that we don't know how to deal with, we're gonna let him tinker with the human body.
Absolutely. So he got in a lot of trouble when he got his medical license for stealing drugs, overprescribing narcotics, performing illegal abortions.
Wow.
He prescribed pretty fatal, almost fatal doses of medicine to children and just laughed it off. And he had a dedicated clientele of people who kept going back to him no matter what. Yeah.
Why?
It was just the gift of gab. Like, honestly, everything that we look
just
at.
really like Talladega Nights. Seriously.
Everything about this guy would have frightened me off. But he kept people coming back to him. That is just customer loyalty like you will never believe.
Was it customer service?
Yes, it was definitely his customer service that did the job.
Added value.
So when he got tired of being in medicine...
Tired, okay.
Yeah, he ran for mayor.
Did he win? Please tell me he won.
Oh, he won.
Oh my.
By a landslide. Let's
what
see
are you
here.
What era is this? This is like the 20s then, right? By this time, 30s?
1920s, yeah.
What are you doing, 1920s people?
Well, during a debate with his opponent, he hired a lackey to sabotage the debate. So, after he was done...
And grenaded his foot.
Threw a grenade at his opponent. No, he hired a guy to cause the electricity to go out in the building where the debates were after Patois spoke, and then cause several fires across town. Yeah, so he really just shut down the other guy. He was voted right in. Absolutely.
So they just did the one debate?
Yeah, absolutely. And then he was...
And they didn't think to give the other guy a second chance?
No, why? It's the 1920s. You had your chance. It was a simpler time.
Well, I had trouble wrapping my head around this from the beginning, but this guy is just...
He's a maniac.
I can't even say he's stumbling ass backwards into these things because, he knows what he's doing, but he's going about them in, like, the stupidest slapstick way. And these people are just eating it up. Like,
so how does he get in trouble when he's a mayor?
How does he get in trouble?
He gets caught for embezzling funds.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's boring.
Well, yeah. So he gets thrown out of being... He gets kicked out of being mayor, so he runs for town councilor.
And he wins.
And he wins. But then Same town.
Jesus.
Then was accused of stealing electricity and stealing several items from across town, including, oh God, what was it? A bass drum and a stone cross.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah. He was a weirdo.
I'm losing, like, the method to his madness.
There is no method to this man's madness. And also, electricity? How are you stealing electricity in 1920? There's only 2 other buildings other than yours that's hooked up to electricity. Doesn't everyone realize that you're stealing everyone else's electricity?
Yeah.
It's weird. I get it.
I want to be more incredulous about that, but I don't even know how to be.
Well... to go along...
I'm just imagining him, like, holding a bucket under a plug.
He's got all the extension cords running to his house. So this guy, the entire time he was doing all this crazy stuff. He was a doctor, he was mayor, town councilor. There's also a lot of, I guess not evidence, but a lot of people suspected that he was murdering people. he had an affair with one of his elderly patient's daughters. She went missing. And the night that she went missing, neighbors saw him loading a big trunk into the back of his car.
I'm rolling my eyes right now.
And driving it to the river. So when they fished out a similar looking trunk weeks later with a horribly dismembered body and no way to identify what this body was because of the amount of water damage done to it, a lot of people thought that he may have actually killed this woman.
Oh, you think?
Yeah. And there were a lot of times during this time where he was suspected of murdering patients. There's just no evidence of it. That is until the Germans occupied France, and he did not give a fuck. He's just like, you know what? This is the perfect time for me. Germans roll into France and take over. He waits a little bit until people start coming to him for help escaping the country. He sets up this whole fake, basically underground railroad to funnel whoever could pay him out of France. And it could be criminals, it could be Jews that needed to escape. Whoever had money to pay him, he would get out of town. But he would tell them beforehand, after he receives their money, that he needs to immunize them. He says, I'm sending you to South America so you can be safe. And they have diseases there that you have never heard of before. So I'm going to give you this injection. It's going to immunize you. You're going to be sick for a little bit, and then you'll be fine. You'll be on your way in a boat out of France. Except that needle was filled with cyanide. And those people never left France. Yeah, he did this a lot.
What's a lot?
Well, after they finally, everyone figured out that something fishy was going on with him, and there was a horrible smell coming from his house, and there was a lot of gray smoke coming from his chimney day and night for a week. The fire department was finally called because Patois wasn't answering his door anymore. The stink was overwhelming, even for France.
It's timely.
And when the fire department showed up with the police behind them, they walk in to try and find the fire, and they walk right back out and say, this is all on you now. When the police go inside, they find an arm dangling from a blazing furnace.
Oh, man.
With bodies inside, chopped up bodies mixed with coal, bits of bodies scattered around the room, bone, flesh, teeth, enough evidence for there to be at least 23 bodies in the room right there.
Jesus.
Suspected of at least 60 murders. Could be up into the hundreds, though, because he's been burning bodies. He was dumping them in the river. Bodies were washing up all the time that they couldn't identify because they were thrown into the river, and you couldn't... I mean, there was no dental records back then, so they couldn't use that. They just... you didn't have ID on you, or if you didn't look like yourself, nobody could identify you.
Sure.
So he got away with it for a long time.
Plus, I'm sure this being the German occupation of France, one of the most brutal occupations, bodies washing up weren't totally...
Oh, yeah, totally, definitely not uncommon. That is until the German authorities realized that he might be a problem. So they issued a warrant for his arrest, and he hooked up with French resistance.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and he started working with them, claiming that he put booby traps all over France that left no forensic evidence of them murdering Germans. He provided them with fake medical records, and also helped them with general fighting and stuff like that. He actually fought with the resistance. That's the thing, is he actually did this. He did this one good thing, but he also did all these other murders.
That is the tiniest silver lining.
I know. So when when the German authorities put out the warrant for his arrest, French revolutionary people, or French resistance, thought that, okay, this guy's obviously on our team. until they start actually like dealing with him. And then a couple of years down the line, they're like, this guy is a little nuts. And they look into him.
Maybe there's a reason the Germans don't want him.
Yeah. So when they finally look into him, he's like, well, I'm out of town. He was caught at one of the main French train stations. And he had like 50 pairs of ID, 20,000 francs on him, and like a disguise. He was then eventually executed.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, he was. I mean, his trial was also a disaster. It took for forever, and there were a lot of people in the crowd that were really rooting for him. In fact, the closing arguments from his lawyer got a standing ovation, not only from the crowd but from the jury.
Jesus.
But they also didn't take very long to convict him of murder and sentence him to the guillotine. But, happy little story here. Due to the fact that there was a malfunction with the guillotine, his execution was stayed for a couple days until they could find one that worked and chopped his head off.
Huh.
And, that was May 1946 that he finally was put out of his misery.
Let loose his mortal coil.
Yeah.
Well, that was horrible all the way through. That was nuts.
This is not a unique case because there are people like this all the time. Most of these people don't ever get into murder. Most of them get into finance or into they own businesses. They're CEOs. A lot of successful CEOs are sociopaths like this guy.
I've heard that before.
They just never. They know that if they murder, they'll get caught. Petois didn't think he'd get caught. He just murdered because he wanted that money. At the end, I think they suspected him having 20 million francs. That was in 1940s money.
That's...
The inflation on that is like 100 million or something like that.
But you also have to think the inflation that comes from war at the time. So 20 million might have been...
Yeah, that might have been
20,000, but 20 million francs is a lot of people named Frank.
There's a lot of dead people.
That is, oh my god, I'm speechless, and I don't want to be, because we could spend hours just dissecting every... He reminds me of these YouTube videos that I watch where they're playing GTA, and the dude's running along the highway, and the next time you see him, he's water skiing, and then he's stuck in a pool, and now he's taking a selfie with a fighter jet trying to shoot him. It's just no one thing connects to the next.
No,
I mean, soldier into doctor program, into politics, into serial killings all along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just, oh shit, they're on to me. Or not even that they're on to me, they caught me and were stupid enough to let me go. Oh, guess I go run for mayor.
Yeah, might as well do this next thing that's kind of crazy and off the wall. This guy was a maniac, and there were still people at the very end who thought that he was the greatest person in the world and didn't want him to die.
Just still lost for words, but not stupidity, but just different time.
It really is. I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to, is the fact that it was just a different era, and we didn't recognize a lot of these things as problems. They were just character quirks that you'd be like, give him a slap on the hand and send him on his way. Yeah, it's really strange.
Have you, just to kind of break from horror, do you know what the Flynn effect is?
Flynn effect?
Yeah.
No.
So it's basically the idea that each generation, maybe 10, 15, 20 years, is 4 to 5 IQ points higher than the last.
Okay.
So, and that's not because, yes, it is that we're evolving to be smarter, because as technology advances, we advance with it. I mean, my dad learned, but, the internet was a big thing that a lot of, older generations never got used to.
So,
iPhones. Yeah. And so with that in mind, it's not as surprising as what I consider an obvious red flag to just go way over someone's head in the 1920s.
Seriously, yeah.
Because you don't have the shared cultural memory of 2016 plus years.
That's true. I mean, yeah, you don't have like the backlog of history to look at and then add up. So yeah, I could definitely see that being a factor in a lot of these crimes that we just. I mean, some of the other stories you've got that you're gonna tell us. Good Lord. Okay, listeners, some of these things are crazy. I thought Patois was crazy, and then Jake told me about these things. Holy crap. I can't wait for you to hear them.
Dude, I wouldn't oversell what I got. I mean, I was blown away by Patois.
Still, okay.
It's like, okay, so when I hear Patois, I think Hannibal Lecter meets Cosmo Kramer from Seinfeld.
Yes. Honestly, I don't think that's far off from what his character was like. I mean, he peed his pants up until his teens for no reason other than the fact that he just didn't. I don't know. Maybe he was bored.
Sociopathy.
Probably. This guy was nuts, and yeah, he was just a strange fella.
Woof. Woof is all I got to say. Jesus, do you have another one for us?
No. I'm going to talk about one at the very end.
Okay.
It's my personal history as a horror story, but I'll let you go on.
Okay, cool. We'll finish up this next one because not a lot is known about it, which only makes it worse. And then we'll take a drink break.
Yeah.
So this one, we are going a little bit over in Europe, same timeline, to the Hinkik murders, which are another one of my favorite. Yeah. Hinkik is not an official place name. It basically, the prefix Hinter means behind, and Kaifek was the town. So this was a kind of backwoods farmhouse, not a farm town, farmhouse.
Sure.
Their next neighbors were miles away. It was 6 victims. It was the head farmer, Andreas Gruber, his wife, Kazelia, their widowed daughter, Victoria, Victoria's kids, Kazelia and Joseph, and the maid, Maria. And this family was kind of known in the area for being dicks.
Great. It's a great way to be known by your neighbors.
So unless, even by 1920s German standard, standoffish, rude, not someone you really want to be around.
Sure.
So unless what are the last names? Unless the Grubers came to you, the Grubers are the victims, unless the Grubers came to you needing something or offering something, you guys did not interact.
Yeah.
So basically in the time leading up, they noticed strange occurrences in their house and stuff that would be common to us to say, get the fuck out of the house.
Yeah.
Didn't occur to them. It started out small with stuff being rearranged in the house, and no one would know why it's happening, but it's just assumed that it's happening.
Sure.
Next, we got into stuff going missing. Food, supplies, physical objects, a hammer, maybe.
Yeah.
His Xbox. And finally, the last thing they reported, Andres was in town, in the town of Kaifek, complaining about creaking footsteps coming from the attic.
Oh, no.
This was enough for their maid to skip town.
Yeah. Whole family, come with me.
And they didn't. Just the maid. So the new one comes in, Maria, and she lives with them for, I think, another week before it's assumed it happened about a week later. But after a long period of time, their neighbors, who, I want to remind you, aren't in a hurry to go check up on them, start to notice that, hey, Andres hasn't come by. He hasn't sold us anything. He hasn't bought anything off of us in a long time.
Yeah.
And Still, all the while, smoke is coming out of their house.
Sure.
Until eventually it stops. And about a week later, the local townspeople investigate, and they find the whole family brutally murdered with an axe.
Damn.
Apparently the killer had been living there for another week or so and just never cleaned up. And it's found out that they had a person living in their attic for an unspecified amount of time.
Oh, God damn it.
The guy was never caught. That's all the details we know.
Jake, what are the chances that this guy's living in my attic right now?
100%. 50% he rents out our attic as well.
Okay. That is a terror of mine. There was this story I read about this family in Japan. They move into this apartment that's also got like attic space.
I've seen this.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Like shortly after they move in, they start noticing stuff is going missing. And they think like, the food's going missing because my spouse is eating while I'm at work, or they're eating in the middle of the night or whatever. And it gets to the point where like big stuff is missing, like toiletries and like clothing is missing, or stuff's rearranged in the house they don't understand. And they set up a security camera one day. The next day, after everyone leaves to go to work and go to school, they notice a little old woman crawl out of a fucking cupboard in their house that had access to the attic. They'd never been in there. They didn't know that they had access to the attic. When she was evicted out of that apartment, she just moved up there and waited for them to come in. And then she started eating her stuff. If I saw that security footage,
Which I'm sure looked like The Ring.
I would have screamed my head off and taped or bolted that door shut so that woman couldn't get out of there.
Oh, I would have burned the city down.
God damn, yeah. She just didn't want to move. She felt like she was wrongly evicted, which I think under the circumstances she was. But it's still...
An eviction's an eviction.
Oh, god damn, was that terrifying. Yeah, I never want that to ever happen to me. Ever. Yeah, now that you're thinking about it, now someone's... Just think about this. Listeners. Somebody could have come into your house while you were at work or you were at school and are waiting for you to go to sleep or maybe sit down and watch TV. Maybe they're right behind you right now.
Oh, look at that, they are.
Oh, God. Yes.
And keep in mind, this has been going on for at least 100 years.
Yeah.
That reminds me, just a quick personal anecdote. I was bird watching while my parents were in New York. Mm-hmm. And the whole time, I would always, keep the attic door in my eye in case it unfurled. It never did, but I'm not about to...
Never. We have a little pulley on our attic ladder.
Yeah.
And I will keep an eye on it so that if it's swinging and nobody's been upstairs in a while, maybe we've got a draft somewhere in the house, but it's probably because somebody has been trying to kill me and my family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's a terror.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Actually, no, that's not all I got.
Oh,
this
no.
is where we get into, not speculation, but uncited information. Mm-hmm. But going back to these people had no mindset for what they're looking at.
Sure.
Prior to the events, Gruber Andreas told neighbors about discovering footprints in the snow leading from the edge of the forest to the farm, but none leading back. Hearing footsteps in the attic, which I mentioned, and finding an unfamiliar newspaper on the floor. Furthermore, the house keys went missing several days before all of this.
God, get out of the house!
Right?
Like that, what a dumb family.
None of this was reported to the police. He just mentioned it. My keys went missing, and there's weird sets of footprints in the snow.
Oh, and there's
I'm
a
not
newspaper
worried.
I don't read showed up in the house. Oh, I don't like it.
Yeah.
You know what I do like though? Beer.
Oh, me too.
Let's crack open another one.
Let's do it.
This is the Oktoberfest. So, cheers, sir.
Podcast juice.
Woo!
Cheers.
How does that tickle your fancy?
A little on the sweet side.
Yes.
But I like it. Very sippable.
Yes. I believe it's supposed to be an old German recipe.
I'll buy it.
It's, what is it, a Marzen is what they call it? I'm not familiar with Marzens. I'm not a very big European beer fan, but this is actually delicious. Mm-hmm. So what other kind of horrible stuff you got lined up for me?
Okay, next one we got is half horror movie, half disaster movie.
Okay.
And it's a short story, so hopefully it'll burn in your brain a little bit longer. We are all familiar with the eruption of Mount Vesuvius.
Yeah.
And the death of Pompeii.
Mm-hmm.
But what's never talked about, probably for very good reason, is that there was a closer city named Herculaneum. Mm-hmm. Herculaneum was close enough that when Mount Vesuvius lost its shit, the air around the town became superheated to the point where everyone's heads in the town boiled and exploded.
Oh.
So on the one hand, you have that god-awful Pompeii movie starring Kit Harington.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you have that scene from The Scanners times 100,000.
You know what this reminds me of? You ever roast garlic in an oven?
No?
Oh, well, so what you do is you get some garlic, head of garlic, and then you saw off the top and you pull off a lot of the outside, like skin, paper.
That sounds good.
And then you put a little tin foil around the outside of it, and then you put some olive oil inside of it, and you throw it in an oven at 300 degrees for maybe an hour to 2 hours. And when you pull it out, you've got this soft, golden, creamy garlic.
Okay.
Is that what
Now
happened to
I'm-
these people's heads?
Now I'm just hungry. No, have you seen... You know the scene I'm talking about from
Yeah,
The
from
Scanners?
Scanners, absolutely.
It's that, the violent eruption caused by superheated gas
I
forming
just
inside
don't know
your
why
skull.
that makes me think of roasted garlic.
You're the one who's been in my attic this whole time. So that's it. I mean, there's not really a whole lot to it. Science realized this happened. There was
Exploded
no
heads.
There's no mystery to it. They discovered Pompeii and they were like, oh, these people choked to death on poison gas. And
Yeah.
they discovered Herculaneum and they're like, oh shit, these guys all had their heads explode like they're playing Gears of War.
Now, did they find bodies with no heads? Is that what they were finding?
Oh, with Herculaneum, the whole thing was buried in molten lava. They didn't find anything. But
It's just
they
like
knew it was
science.
a town, and they knew that's what happens to the human head.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Well, never put my head in a microwave, I guess.
Okay. Same here.
Yeah.
I just ruined a microwave the other day, did I tell you?
No, what did you do?
I was making an enchilada, and I kept it in the tinfoil because
Oh, no!
I didn't know you couldn't do that.
Oh, God. Yeah, that will fry the shit out of your microwave and possibly set the tinfoil on fire.
It didn't do that. I just came back, and it must have happened right away. I set the microwave and left, and came back, and it just wasn't working.
Oh, man.
It wasn't burnt. It wasn't destroyed. It was just off.
My
permanently.
sister put, I think it was butter. She was trying to soften butter for, I think, a cookie recipe that she was trying to do. We were both kids, and she was a great baker when we were kids. And she put this butter into the microwave. And this is when I think butter still had like that tinfoil wrap on it, like around the paper. Mm-hmm. And it was very thin. We didn't know anything about tinfoil and microwaves. I mean, like you, we just didn't know. So she put it in the microwave to soften it for a couple seconds. The fucker just set on fire. Just a little flame started on one side. And sort of popped it open. We're trying to like fan the flames out of there. And then we had to explain to our parents what the hell happened.
That's hilarious.
Oh, God. Chris, if you're listening, I'm sure those were good cookies.
Oh, shit!
So what else is new? What else we got?
Okay, we got 3 more serial killers that we'll kind of run through really fast because not a whole lot is known about them.
Okay.
First one is Bella Kiss, 1877 to question mark, just to let you know where the story is going.
Good.
Okay, so he was a Hungarian serial killer, and he started out his life as a tinsmith who lived in the town of Cinkota, near Budapest.
Okay.
He was an amateur astrologer
Okay.
and fond of occult practices. So right off the bat, you got your origin story.
Won't tell you about my occult practices.
Yeah, we'll cover that. He was very handsome, very charming, something you're going to notice amongst a lot of these people.
Yes.
Maybe something you've already noticed. And he began to correspond with a number of women and took them home. Now here's where it gets even more suspicious. His maid, Miss Jakobek, yeah, was never allowed to get to know them, and he was never on intimate terms with them, even though, as I said, he was very well liked.
Yeah.
Also, this is the 4th or 5th red flag. The townsfolk noticed that he collected a number of metal drums, like big, let's just say person-sized metal drums.
Good.
Anyways, he quickly told the police off. He said he was filling them with gasoline, preparing for the rationing with World War I coming out.
That's what you do.
Yeah, which, highly illegal.
Yeah.
But, sure, I guess that worked. When World War I came around, he was conscripted and left the house in Miss Jakobek's care.
Sure.
In 1916, so a few years into the war, the Budapest police received a call from a landlord who had found several of these drums. The constable remembered that this is where Bella said he kept his gasoline, and so he sent needy local soldiers to them, and they noticed a suspicious odor when they tried to open them.
Oh, shit.
So, instead of gasoline, they found the pickled bodies of 23 young women and 1 man stabbed, butchered, and strangled.
Did I tell you I tried making pickles recently? Yeah, you had some of my pickles.
Oh, they were so good. Are those still in the fridge? They better not be.
No, we ate them all.
Oh, okay.
I just thought this was a good tie-in for the story. Go on.
So, basically, they questioned Miss Jakobek. She was found innocent, and then they suspected the young, very handsome, very well-liked, very intimate but never emotional person. And they were told to arrest him if he was even still alive. It was World War I. So in 1916, they received a letter that Kiss was recuperating in a Serbian hospital. But by the time Budapest police arrived, Kiss had fled and substituted the dead body of another soldier for his own.
What the fuck? This is like some Jason Bourne shit.
Mm-hmm. And that is the last we've heard of him.
Oh my god, that is awesome.
Right?
And then he founded the Bush family.
And then he started the Bella Kiss metal drum. Damn it, your joke was better.
So what's this other serial killer?
Okay, so the last 2 we have are from the ancient times.
Okay.
We will go over the world's first documented serial killer, and then we will talk about Joan of Arc's friend. Who maybe wasn't so friendly.
Okay.
I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Okay, so the first one takes place in the Pax Romana in about halfway through the 1st century AD.
Okay.
It was someone whose name is Locusta.
Locusta?
Like locust with an A at the end. Locusta.
All right.
Locusta. And frankly, it reads like if Hannibal Lecter was given a state university. So, it starts out in the 1st century, where this person, Locusta, is arrested for poisoning people.
Okay.
But this being Rome and also awful, she was pardoned in exchange for poisoning the emperor at the time, Emperor Claudius. So, she poisoned him and was allowed her freedom. So, she saw the light and the error in her ways and was arrested a year later for poisoning someone else.
What the fuck?
Yeah. She was... I know this story, and this is insane to say. The new emperor, Nero, known for being insane, pardoned her again in order to have her poison Nero's 13-year-old stepbrother, Britannicus.
Oh, God.
Fuck you, Nero.
Brother of the year.
But rather than I guess, just being set free and, slap on the wrist, stop poisoning people, you crazy fucker.
Yeah.
Nero decided to take this crazy train up to 11 and gave her her own villa and pupils to help her. She got motherfucking helpers to poison people.
This is like Assassin's Creed.
It's like Assassin's Creed, but on God mode. So, even though she was a known murderer and repeat offender, she was basically given everything she needed to open her own goddamn school for murder. And the people knew it. I mean, she had the reputation of a sorceress and not more than a few allies because she tended to poison the fuck out of them.
Yeah.
So, her luck finally ran out when Nero hung himself. And the new emperor, Galba, arrested her and promptly, on the spot, had her executed.
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah.
What the fuck, that woman?
So, I mean, no estimate how many people she killed, but...
And you don't hear about a lot of female serial killers. Although...
If we ever do a part 2, I can give you a few, because...
Oh, God, that'd be awesome.
They tend to be a little more justified.
Usually justified, but also you'll notice a lot of female serial killers don't...
And a lot of poisoning.
A lot of poisoning, and a lot of indirect murder. The ones that do the direct murdering, though, they do it fast and quick. They will burn through victims like nothing else. I can't imagine with this Locusta's body count.
I think that's right. Oh, I'm sure it's nightmarish.
Oh, it's got to be
it's high double digits at the very least.
Yeah. Because at the time, too, poisoning, if it didn't kill you, you had long-lasting effects that could kill you in the long run. But, so yeah, her body count of, these people weren't murdered. They were definitely left maimed for years down the line.
Yeah.
So Joan of Arc, you were saying?
Yeah, okay, so Joan of Arc is lionized in history. I mean, she was real, for one, documented, a badass, and beloved by God and supposedly Merlin both.
Okay, what is up with this Merlin thing?
I don't know a whole lot about it. I just... that one is less documented. We can just say that. I believe that was a myth spread after the fact, that she was blessed by this wizard, but...
Alright, well...
I don't know how big wizardry is in Christianity, so...
Pretty big.
Oh, okay.
You ever heard of Jesus?
I'll have to look him up in my Rolodex.
Okay.
Okay, so, while she gets all the credit for leading France through these trials against England, she really couldn't have done it without the help of, it's a French name, Gilles de Rais.
Okay.
Who was described as her ardent companion, her right-hand man.
All right.
He was one of the bravest knights in the French army, and you made it when you made it in Hollywood in that big-budget Joan of Arc movie with Mila Jovovich. Yeah, he was played by Vince Cassel.
That's awesome.
Yeah, a little less awesome, but still, he was very close to her, very near and dear.
Sure.
So you're probably wondering, why don't we name churches after this dude? And that is because of his night job as probably if not one of the most prolific serial killers, who preyed on children between the ages of 6 and 18.
A ripe young age.
Mm-hmm. And again, we're talking about one of the people who made her sainthood possible.
Yeah, seriously, that's the thing. The moment you told me about this and gave me a little bit of a lowdown on this, I could not believe that they even made her a saint after being affiliated with this guy.
I imagine when she got up to the pearly gates and St. Peter's looking over her resume, she's like, okay, let's see, references, Monsieur Gilles de Rais. What the fuck?
Wait here, I gotta go talk to my boss.
Yeah. Management.
So tell me more about his murders.
Okay, so the accounts of what he's done is soul scarring. So not only did he kill and abuse them in gruesome ways,
Yeah.
he would also mess with them psychologically. He'd convince them it was just a game.
Oh, God.
And then, unleash something far worse. That's about all that can be said about him, except that, depending on who you ask, DeRay killed as few as 80 kids, or as many as 800.
That's a big jump.
And I did the math on that.
Yeah.
Assuming this is a 5-year campaign on behalf of Joan of Arc, that averages out to a kill every other day.
Oh, no.
For 5 years. That's on the high count. On the low count, he's just
a hobbyist.
Evil. Yeah, he's just a hobbyist.
Yeah, on the high count, that's a profession. What do they say? 10,000 hours makes you an expert?
Mm-hmm. This guy was an expert.
Ugh. That is like... I can't, just the sheer number. That number is so high. The guy in America with the highest body count, serial killer, is the Green River Killer. I can't remember his name. But he has a confirmed body count of 75. He claims it's 90-something. The next guy...
So he just barely skirts the low end of this dude's estimate.
And then the next guy is a guy from Colombia, and he was killing orphans, and he got 300 confirmed kills.
So, just about mid-range.
Yeah.
He's right there on the bell curve.
Exactly. So yeah, it's not unheard of.
800 children is a little unheard of.
Okay, maybe.
Alright, so the one silver lining to this is that Joan of Arc never knew about any of this.
I guess so. I mean...
Well, that's the best I can do.
Was he ever caught, or was he...
Yeah, he was caught, and they burned the shit out of him.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's the thing, is people like this need to get caught. God, 80. What the fuck? That's such a high number. It just... 80 is a high number. 800 is unfathomable. And
time went into this. That's the other thing. I mean, if you're just Jack the Rippering your way through these people is stab dead, and that's one thing. But he spent days messing with them before killing them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well.
Ending on a high note.
Yay! So did you have any other fun horror stories?
Yeah, I just thought of one more quick one, and I didn't do a lot of research, but I'd heard this in passing.
Mm-hmm.
You know Laura Ingalls Wilder's Little House on the Prairie?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've read it. They might even have made mention to it in the story, or maybe just in interviews. Mm-mm. But she was neighbors at one time with the Bloody Benders.
What the hell is that?
The Bloody Benders are not necessarily a family, but rather a group of serial killers. They masqueraded as a family, and they owned a hotel. And the whole thing just sounds wrong and bizarre.
Yeah.
So they would have guests, and a hotel back then is not a hotel now. The whole family would serve you, you'd eat, and go up to your room. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like a tavern. It wasn't a very sociable place. It was a hostel. But if they thought you had money, they seated you at a table with a fake wall, basically little more than cloth painted like a wall.
Yeah.
And as you're eating your meal, one of the benders would come out from behind this fake wall and murder you with a hammer.
What
And
the
then
fuck?
take all your money and bury you out and back. They kept this up for a while, and at this point, this is all my half-remembered gibberings regarding this. But a politician came to this hotel and was killed.
Oh yeah, you can't kill politicians.
His brother came looking for him. And this is both me misremembering it and on top of that urban legend.
Yeah.
But his brother was seated at the same table, and he noticed his brother's signet ring, and he managed to fight his way out.
What?
And he came back with the full force of the army at the time.
The people who were still at the hotel?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
Right? So, I mean, not only do the civilians lack common sense, but the serial killers do too. They just don't have the off switch.
No,
They
they
keep doing
don't.
it.
They absolutely don't.
Or they thought their idea of killing someone with a hammer, how could that go wrong?
Who would care about this?
So he comes back with the army, and they're long gone.
Yeah.
And this is where I forget if it's actually in her books or if it's in interviews, but the town formed militias and went out searching for him.
Mm-hmm.
And Laura asks her dad where he's going. He says he has to go out for a couple days, but he says they will never find him. Or, I'm sorry, they will never find them.
Oh, wow.
And she quotes, an air of finality. So, not to say he knows something they don't know, but...
He may know where they're buried.
Yeah.
Dang.
So yeah, that's it. I just thought that was really, really interesting. Because not only is that a horror story from history, that's a horror story behind one of the most beloved stories of American literature.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I have a short one I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
It's my personal horror story.
This is you roasting garlic, and by garlic, people.
People's heads, yes. I gave you a good roasted garlic recipe. What more could you ask for?
You did, and actually, I got hungry thinking about that. I'm gonna add that to the pasta I just made for next time. Some roasted garlic on top with the egg, dude. That'd be fantastic.
Oh my god! All right, so put this in your mind. Close your eyes. Early July, 1947, Roswell, New Mexico. Don't roll your eyes at me.
I swear to God, if this is aliens,
This is not aliens.
this is Bigfoot.
No,
This is Shadow People.
nothing like that.
Are you sure this isn't Bigfoot?
This is just how an event that may have never actually transpired the way it's been even told in the newspapers, even the official report, like whatever transpired, doesn't even have to be aliens. But the fact that whatever actually crashed there, because something crashed there, that's the thing. Something crashed. Was it a weather balloon? Was it a flying saucer? Was it an experimental, a getaway balloon called Project Mogul?
That sounds cool. It was a flying saucepan.
Saucepan. All that matters is the fact that something landed there. And this event, even if it was a plane crash and the government was trying to cover it up, the fact that we don't know the actual details has caused ripples within the social fabric for decades since.
Because that's why we get UFO stories.
Yeah, honestly, that and oh god, I cannot remember this guy's name. the guy who coined the term flying saucer. It was these two events that kicked off the 1940s and 1950s UFO flap. And
Sorry, UFO flap?
they call it a flap, where it's just like mass sightings or lots of sightings over and over and over again. Sometimes in the same area, but sometimes spread across big, vast areas.
Sure.
And
Kenneth Arnold?
Kenneth Arnold, good lord, yes, the guy who who coined the term flying saucer.
Okay.
These events have caused, in my opinion, some very damaging, results within the military industrial complex that we are currently living under. Because we really are. A lot of our technology comes from the Army and what they release to the public. And it's like the stealth bombers. When they were being tested, nobody knew what they were, and they thought they were seeing UFOs.
The internet was originally a military communications service.
A lot of these things, I feel, can be used to hide either benign or very damaging things that we as the public should know. And while I don't know if the Roswell event actually was aliens or not.
Wait, I'm kind of getting a weird chicken and egg situation. Let's just take the stealth bomber.
Mm-hmm.
Is us thinking it's aliens and it turns out to be a stealth bomber damaging because it's a bomber you can't detect by radar? Or is it a stealth bomber being seen by people and us thinking it's aliens that's damaging?
I think it's damaging because the government is using the UFO and alien angle to hide their secret.
Oh.
Their secrets behind, because they do use that. They do hide top secret projects behind this, because
They do, but they do it insidiously.
Because the news media is not going to take anybody seriously. The moment they say alien or UFO or flying saucer, it's immediately any news story about a UFO that comes on like your local news is going to have the X-Files theme song.
Yeah. And the government's going to be like, UFOs, this guy's crazy.
Exactly.
And so the B-2 stealth bomber is shoved under the rug again.
Exactly. So
okay.
I do feel like something like this, while it seems silly and it seems like a very almost benign lie, it's damaging because they're hiding so much behind it, and they're using it to cover up the real,
it's a butterfly effect.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, they're using it to just put a face that no one's going to look past, or a wall or a curtain that no one's going to look through, and try and find the actual truth.
Oh, I'm sorry. What you just said is more of like a kind of a straw man argument where you kind of boil down your opponent's arguments into, oh, this dude believes in aliens. He's crazy.
Exactly. What do they call it? An ad hoc attack. You're attacking ad hominem. You're attacking your opponent's credibility with this sort of thing.
Okay.
And I think
what I was getting at is that, whatever happened at Roswell, they couldn't have known the far-reaching consequences it would have had.
But I think what they learned from that event was that they could hide their secrets behind lies like this that were very simple to propagate.
Mm-hmm.
People were already believing in it, so all they wanted to do was fan the flame and put a couple people out there that said, "Oh, this was an alien that we saw," or "This was a UFO that came down from Mars," or something like that. It's these things that they're hiding their secrets behind these things, and in my opinion, that is very damaging, and it's horrifying because they're hiding billions, almost trillions of dollars secretly behind these things that we may not be needing to develop these things. I mean, yes, it's I guess essential for the security of America or whatever, but we could also be using these funds for other things: education, a better infrastructure or better resources and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, they're. I feel it's a misappropriation of resources, and to me, it is my own personal horror story.
I get that. I really do, and at the risk of this becoming a totally different podcast, they focus on the coolest new thing. So a railgun that, kills you 3 seconds faster than an artillery shell.
Yeah.
Or, have you seen, I forgot what they're called, I think it's like Mammoth or something, but it's it's like a mechanical horse that you can't knock over.
No, I've never seen. Oh, wait. It's I've seen the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Of these things. Yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah. And I mean, that's all well and good, along with the military spending billions on producing M1A2 Abrams tanks.
Yeah.
That are immediately being scrapped in Fort Hood because the Marines keep telling them we don't fight large-scale land wars anymore.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the American road system, the highway system, is in shambles, and when an invasion happens, the highway system is built to land planes.
Yeah. Bridges are collapsing across the nation.
Stuff we need isn't getting built because it's not the newest laser gun.
Exactly. And I do feel like that is something that we overlook and that we don't realize is being hidden from us. And that's something we should definitely be scared of.
Yeah.
Especially because that was a moment in history that, like we said, whatever happened, the government wasn't planning on it, and their cover-up, or whatever they accidentally used as a cover-up, turned out to be so convenient and so easy to use that they've been using it for years and years and years now.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, that's... Shut up, it's my personal horror story.
Oh, but damn, I was so excited. I was thinking you were going to say there was a crash landing of something at Roswell, and then people started disappearing, and we get Super 8 in the 40s.
We will do a whole episode about the crash in Roswell.
We'll write that movie. We'll call it Super 7.
Super 7. We'll need a crack team of Hollywood writers on this one.
Paul, get on it.
But I believe that's the end of our episode. We've covered quite a bit of horrifying things across the years, across the centuries even. Yeah, we went all the way back to Rome. Good Lord. Mm-hmm. Nero really had it going on, didn't he?
Oh, sure. I mean, fuck.
And
that
also,
guy. It's the thing about Rome is that it was so nuts that everyone and their mother was a serial killer. It's just she was the only one people thought was a witch.
Yeah, and this is actually the longest episode we've done so far. So I do think we did a good job of keeping everybody engaged and keeping them entertained. So
keeping everybody, meaning your dogs, who have left.
Yep, they're gone. So hopefully you're not gone. But why don't you guys follow us on Twitter at Let's Make It Weird Pod. I
promise I will post another status eventually.
Excellent. Email us at letsmakeitweird@gmail.com.
I won't be checking that.
We will let you know when our Tumblr gets up and going. I want to post our episodes there, especially the two old ones that I did with my cousin Julian.
Could get some traction.
Yeah. We'll get the Tumblr up and going, and that's really all of it. Jake, I want to thank you for bringing me some history that I didn't know about.
And you didn't need to know about.
I didn't need to know about it, but I'm going to be thinking about this for a long time.
Oh, dude. Yeah. This will stay with you. Oh, God. I'm still picturing just an arm dangling out of a furnace. Fuck you.
It's a good image.
Marcel Pitois.
Marcel Pitois.
That's a beautiful name, though.
Marcel the Shell was based on this guy's life.
What if Marcel's voice was based on
God.
his?
I don't think there's any recordings of this guy's voice.
Especially not him talking about eating salads.
Mm-mm.
You're probably right.
Anyway. All right, folks. I want you to keep it weird, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Woo!